Thanks for watching. Please take this time to join the notification gang. What's the creepiest, scariest thing you've seen but no one believes you? I was walking to class from the dining hall on my campus when I saw a lady yelling for help and banging on a window of a nearby building. Lots of people were walking past but I was the only one who seemed to acknowledge it. I went to the window to help and she told me she was locked in a room in the building and that she needed me to come in and open the door. Now, I have no idea the layout of this building and where she was located. So I decided to call campus security for help despite her pleading with me not to call them and to just let her out. I call them and when I hear them coming I go to greet them so I can take them to the window. I leave for maybe a maximum of 15 seconds and when I return with campus security she is gone. We can't see her at the window and campus security goes inside to double check and sure enough there is no trace of her. Campus security definitely thought I was crazy and I'm sure my professor thought I was full of shit when I explained to him why I was late. No one seems to believe me that this happened but I swear it did. When I was around 9 or 10, this guy who looked about 40 just kept being in every single public place I was in. With my parents or not, he was there. At the store. Yes, he was there, bought everything me and my family bought. In school? Yes, he was staring at me on the other side of the school gate. Out in the city? Yes, following me in the streets. I told my parents so many times and they just ignored me and said I need to stop believing everything my brother says. Since my brother was really into creepy stuff at the time, he was 14, one day this guy just disappeared. The next thing I knew was that one of my friends kept seeing the guy everywhere. She many times pointed that the guy was outside the school gate watching her. I never saw him on the other side of the gate. Then she told me the guy disappeared after a few weeks. Then this other kid started telling everyone about the guy following him. About 7 months passed and I moved to another town. Still gives me creeps. So I was getting on the elevator in the metro. To get from the train platform to the main platform with the turnstiles and exit, you have to take the elevator. So I got on with this older guy, it was just us two. And I glanced over and this guy was watching me. Pointedly. And he was smiling but not in a nice, welcoming way. You know in cliché creepypastas where they talk about monsters with unnaturally wide smiles? That's exactly the kind of smile this guy had. Anyway, I looked away from him because I thought he was just crazy or something. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw him making these weird gestures all over his chest. It almost looked like he was making the sign of the cross or something. Finally, the elevator doors opened and we both got off and walked towards the turnstiles. I swiped my card to exit and then turned around to see if this dude was following me. And he was gone. There was nowhere else he could have gone, we were at the only exit for the station. Unless he turned back, ran and got on another elevator in about 4 seconds. I don't know. I don't know where the bleep he went. Anyway. I'm from a small town and sometimes weird things happen in the city that I don't quite understand but I just chalk it up to me being practically a redneck. But this was really out there. And it's been bothering me. Not quite sure how young I was at the time but it was probably between 5-8. I was in my babysitter bed at the time in her trailer park. It was 3 a.m. I had woken up because I had to pee. When I woke up I looked down the hallway to see my babysitter leaning against the wall like one of the stereotypical cool guys do in movies. And I made eye contact and I felt my body go cold because she was still sound asleep next to me in bed. I went under the blankets trying to hide and when I looked back she was gone. I didn't want to sound crazy so I've never told anyone. I just sat in her bed watching infomercials until 6 a.m. when she woke up. Never even thought about sleeping there again. I honestly forget how much this affected me until I started writing this. Really freaked me out, man. Since I never told anyone I don't know if it belongs here, but no one in my family believes in ghost, so if I were to tell them I guarantee it'd be dismissed. Not sure if this counts because I have at least 2 people that do believe me. After coming home from work one day I was walking through my kitchen towards the living room when a frying pan just flew across the room, and hit me square between the shoulders. My roommate, and a friend of his both saw it happen, and lost their shit. Wasn't the only time we saw weird shit in that house. I saw a shadow person in the same spot almost every day. Heard extremely heavy footsteps stomping across our roof with no explanation. My roommate says he saw a full laundry basket just flip itself upside down while it was flat on the ground. He also claims to have seen an ugly little green goblin-looking demon in our living room one night. So, yeah? That's all I got. Not sure if this counts because I have at least 2 people that do believe me. After coming home from work one day, I was walking through my kitchen towards the living room when a frying pan just flew across the room and hit me square between the shoulders. My roommate and a friend of his both saw it happen and lost their shit. Wasn't the only time we saw weird shit in that house. I saw a shadow person in the same spot almost every day. Heard extremely heavy footsteps stomping across our roof with no explanation. My roommate says he saw a full laundry basket just flip itself upside down while it was flat on the ground. He also claims to have seen an ugly little green goblin-looking demon in our living room one night. So, yeah? That's all I got. In the same room of my old house, I have seen a convulsed face floating outside my window. My brother has also seen it too. I saw the same face over a number of periods and it would do stuff like smile and float closer and further from the glass. Our youngest brother a few years later complained that he didn't want to play with the boy in his room anymore as he was getting too much blood on his toys. It was the same room. Footsteps and banging in my attic. For about 2 months, almost every night I would hear from my attic. The steps are only like 5 feet from my room, small taps or footsteps. Then it gradually got louder to the point it sounded like an audible foot was pressing on the wood. I told my dad and he told me it was probably an animal that got up there or something. Thing is, my sister heard it too as her bedroom was in the same hallway as mine. My dad might have been right as it was completely gone after 2-3 months and right now at 2 a.m., I don't hear it. And I swear to God if I hear it after I post this I'm actually gonna piss my pants. 2 of my friends went permanently missing the night we did acid at one of their parents' cabin in the Vermont wilderness. They were never found, dead or alive. The events that led up to it were kind of creepy. But honestly at this point I can hardly discern between the real and imagined except that they really disappeared. I was considered a suspect in their disappearance and while I definitely wouldn't say no one believes me because their parents were very supportive of what I was going through and advocated on my behalf, I would never feel comfortable openly telling someone that something paranormal happened even though that is something I've at least considered. We had this punching bag on the ground, not hanging on the air, that we took the bag off of, leaving only the thing that brings the punching bag back to you. We were wondering what to do with it. The next few days, my mum was doing some arts and crafts project, she was big on it lately, and made this dragon head. She called it George and hung it on that punching bag thing. When I slept, it was directly in my eyesight if I looked through my bedroom door. Sometimes, when I was having trouble sleeping, I could swear that the head turned 90 degrees to look directly at me. When I blinked, it was back to normal. This happened many times over the course of 4 years before George started falling apart. I was happy, but my mum was sad. Even when I told her what I saw, she thought I was just having bad dreams. I'm sure that Dragonhead was looking straight at me. When I was 9 I was home alone at like 10 p.m. and this white van just pulls up on my driveway. The van had tinted windows as well as being in the dark so I couldn't see the driver. I was shitting myself because I thought a pedo was gonna come and kidnap. It just sat there for like 20 minutes and drove off. To this day no one believes me. Let me preface this by saying I played a lot of Crash Team Racing as a younger child. One night when I was about 4 or so years old I wasn't having the best sleep. So I woke up in the middle of the night and to this day, 12 years later, I swear I had an auditory plus visual hallucination of Aku Aku, the ticky guy, incoherently speaking. Little 4-year-old me almost shat his pants and ran over to his parents' room. Looking back on it I am pretty sure they just played it off as a dream but I know what I saw. When I was a wee child, when I was still put down for naps, every day a shadow man would pop out from the end of the bed as soon as my mom left the room. It would pop up and do a little hop before just standing there, as if it was waiting for me. It had no face, or any other discernible features other than the general body structure of man, with its entire being simply a flat, opaque brown-grey shadow. Despite this, it would stare at me. Each and every day, for the duration of my nap. When it started I would call frantically for my mom, but she would never come to save me. As time went on, however, I grew used to the shadow's presence, though never comfortable with it. I never did fall asleep with it there. It never harmed me, or even acknowledged me beyond the staring. It would, however, occasionally wave, as if saying goodbye to something on the other side of the bed. Occasionally there would be two. Sometimes both on the same side, and sometimes on opposite sides. They were practically the same, different at the same time. They never acknowledged each other, just me, though when they were on opposite sides they would stare at each other in addition to me. As I grew out of naps I stopped seeing him, them. I still live in the same house though, and I know they are still there. As I've posted this story in the past, Redditors have suggested everything from FS to sleep paralysis. All I know is I saw something and it's bleeping terrifying. My spouse still doesn't believe me. My driveway is nearly a quarter-mile long and my house is in the middle of the woods. One night I got home drunk from hanging out at my buddy's house. When I got out of my vehicle I heard a creepy laugh from the woods. I shined the flashlight from my phone in the woods and I saw these red eyes. I grabbed my pistol from my vehicle and the figure was gone. It didn't even make a sound while escaping through the woods. When I went inside my spouse yelled at me for coming home drunk. I truly think that a supernatural spirit was talking shit and laughing at my expense for getting in trouble. This was 4 years ago. As I was walking on the sidewalk on a busy afternoon, I saw a suspicious man about 18 yo. He was 10 meters away and walking what it looked like towards me. I kept my eyes on him despite the fact that he wasn't looking directly at me. His eyes were roaming, jumping from an object to an object. As we approached one another, half a meter away from each other, he takes out a knife and tries to stab me in my left side. He wasn't really fast, so I easily dodged it and immediately turned to see who is he, or if he is trying to stab me again. To my surprise he continues walking and after a couple of meters he stops, turns around, smiles and gives me thumbs up, then he continues walking in the opposite direction. Till this day I don't know who he was, what he wanted, and even my family doesn't believe me, because if someone wanted to stab you, you can't stop him. You aren't experienced enough to dodge it like that and something of that kind. This happened in late single digits I'd say, and I don't remember if I told anyone and whether they believed it or not, but yeet. So I was sleeping, having some dream, could have been a nightmare, don't remember, but then I woke up and there was some creepy human figure with red eyes glaring down at me, so I covered my head in a blanket. Then when I peeked out, it was a different figure but still human and red eyes glaring at me. BTW, my brother was 10 feet away from me and he was mid-single digit. This continued of me hiding and peeking, then seeing a new figure. One that I remember the most, a figure having Medusa-like hair, it also could not be hair, not sure. Eventually I stayed hidden and went to sleep, but within a second later my mom was waking my brother and I for school. When I was playing peekaboo with a transforming figure, it was pitch black. But when I was woken up it was around 7:30. One of the creepiest things that happened to me, and it was embedded into my brain for years to come, and I don't remember telling anyone about it.